My name's Joe Furby, and I'm a developer advocate at SAS. I help application developers develop applications on top of SAS. I also run the developer portal, which we'll talk about today. I'm the communities manager for the developers, and also I do a lot of work with the SAS Hackathon. So I wear many different hats. I sit in marketing, but I work mostly with R&D. So I wanted to start today's session off with just a little story about where we were when I got to SAS and where we are now. When I first got to SAS, we did have a developer portal that was in 2018, but it was put together by several different people, and it wasn't really their job. It was kind of a checkbox for, oh, we have a developer portal. So that's why they hired me, was to come in and kind of solidify it, modernize it, add more resources. But when I got here, it was me and the API architect that were dealing with APIs for all of SAS. So we knew that we had a lot of work to do. We also knew that the content management system we were using was not going to be adequate for where we wanted to go. So eventually they gave us a project manager. So we put together a presentation for the executives, telling them how important APIs were going to become, and that the resources we had were not adequate. So fast forward a couple years later, and we had built a team of about a dozen people. We still have we have now the project manager, myself. We have a director that is above us. We have 3 front-end developers. So what we decided to do was build our own portal from the ground up. And so they're using React. So we hired 3 front-end developers. We have, and it's deployed in Azure. So we have an Azure engineer. We also have 2 API architects now. And we actually rebuilt the API pipeline. So from when a developer turns in their APIs and their documentation, we have a series of testing and linting before it gets to the developer portal. We also created standards for our APIs. So as developers create the APIs, it's uniform across all the teams. So that's just a little bit of history of where we are. We are not finished, and I'll go through that, what some of the things we want to do in the next year or two as we go. So let's get started. So our agenda today is, well, what is a dev portal? And what are the key elements of a dev portal? What do you expect to see? Who's the dev portal audience? Well, developers, but as you'll see, it's for other people as well. And then we're going to look at the SAS developer portal at the different sections. And we'll also do a demo. So I'll do an end-to-end use case on how a developer would go in and utilize, how they would find the APIs, and how they would move them over and make them effective. And then the portal future, what are we going to be doing in the future? And then if we have time, we'll do some Q&A. So what is a developer portal? I'm not going to read through all these, but a developer portal, often shortened to dev portal, is the interface between a set of APIs, SDKs, or other interactive digital tools and their stakeholders. As I said, the other 2 things here say the same exact thing, just in different words. But I'm probably not telling any of you something you don't know. What are the key elements? Well, you have an overview or a home page, a landing page. And as you can see here, there are a series of titles, and those are going to take you to the onboarding pages, which are just sub-pages from the main page. What's on these sub-pages? Well, API doc, that's the crux of a dev portal. You're always going to find the API documentation there. You're also going to sometimes find an interactive try it, so you can produce a key and try out these APIs. Usage and examples. So these would be use cases. How do you use this API. Here's some examples. Here's some example use cases. FAQs and forums. Ours is a little unique situation. We don't actually have a forum on our portal. We use our SaaS communities.saas.com. We use the developer portal there for where you can go ask questions, where you can post library articles, have discussions. SDKs, don't have to explain that to anybody here probably. We just have links to our SDKs that we've written for our software. And finally, just other resources. This would depend on the company, what they do, kind of a sandbox for everything else. Who's the developer portal audience? Well, it provides interfaces and services for solutions offered by a company. There are resources of many kinds, and they're not just for developers, okay? But obviously, our main audience would be these developers, web application, open source, mobile. In other words, these are the cool kids. They're people with stickers on their laptops. Or people that code in hoodies. But we have resources on our developer portal anyway that are also for data science, business analysts, SaaS administrators, professors, and students. And it's for everybody, really, and it's not just for people with SaaS tattoos, which that is a real tattoo. So the developer portal our developer portal contains many of the features covered by what makes a good developer portal section that we just went through. We have API documentation. We have use cases. We have SaaS and open source integration. We have a place for SaaS programming. We have a section for SDKs. And then we have a kind of a sandbox of resources and SaaS technologies. These are things that kind of don't fall into any of these other categories. And then we have links to the SaaS developers community and to our GitHub resources. And then we have a section for support. So now I'll just go through each of those sections. First, the API documentation. When I first got there, it was written in Swagger 2.0, which is old technology. Then we had to get our documentation out, we then had to write a bunch of custom code to work with Swagger. We had to use some HTML to build it and put in some CSS to make it look nice. It yielded a functional website, but it was slow to build, experienced performance issues, and was laborious to maintain. Also, it sat outside of the developer portal front end. So there was a disconnect there, and it just was ugly. So what we decided to do was bump it up to OpenAPI 3 standards. We built an automated pipeline, as I said. Common tooling for specifications across disparate product teams, which they did by following the rules that made the things more consistent. And then we could track changes, and then we could also automate as much as possible. So now I think we have the sexy Frankenstein. And we got rid of our internal doc site. So now we house all of our documentation on our Azure server. So it's all together now. The use cases. We pulled the use cases from SaaS blogs, SaaS community library articles, conference papers and presentations like this, GitHub, and Ask the Expert webinars, and the SaaS users YouTube channel, amongst a few other smaller resources. Open source integration. You can configure the SaaS platform to work with open source clients and web applications, such as if you're a JavaScript programmer or a Python programmer or an R programmer. You can create applications on top of SaaS using those different tools. And we also work with Python, R, Lua, and Java. And you can connect to SaaS via using notebooks, SWAT, apps, APIs, pretty much anything that can make an API call. For programming, we have several different resources. We have a section for SAS Viya programming, CAS actions, and SAS extension for Visual Studio Code. That's a newer product. So you can go into Visual Studio Code. We're trying to meet developers where they are. So you can load the extension, you can load SAS code, you can integrate that with Python code or R code, and get your work done. SDKs, and everyone here knows what an SDK is, and you can see the different SDKs that we have. SAS Viya SDK for JavaScript, which includes an SDK for visual analytics and a content, which is a broader view of the visual analytics one. We have a couple for customer intelligence. We have a visual investigator and a mobile investigator. And we're adding these, teams are adding these all the time. So this list will just continue to grow. Technologies and solutions, as I said, this was more of a sandbox. And so here is what we have in this section at this point. We have the SAS Viya Orders API, where you can go get your certificate for renewal, Trustworthy AI, SAS 360 Match, SAS Viya Workbench, and Customer Intelligence 360. SAS Developer Portal and Communities and GitHub. As I said, the communities is where you would go and ask questions, get answers, write library articles, and have discussions. And we also have, so we have a link to the SAS developers community directly from the site. And the SAS software on GitHub, we have hundreds of different repositories for various reasons. And they're not all API or developer related, but they are out there. Support resources, I won't go through all of these. We just have links to different resources within other SAS media resources. And we also have a contact there for if you want to get in touch with us and say, oh, it would be nice to have this on the site, or I see a typo, or I see errors. And I just had to get cute with animation here. Okay, this is something that is actually not on the developer portal at this point. We're still developing it, but we're at SAS Innovate, so I want to show some innovations that we're working on. And you can see here, it's not quite a Copilot yet, but it's Copilot-like. You can put in here, it's an advanced search. You can put in your question, it's going to bring back an answer, and it's going to give suggestions. So that's coming. Okay, now we're going to do a demo. So let me move over. I'm not going to go through all of the sections here, well, I'm not going to go into all the sections here, but you can see here the REST APIs, here are the use cases, the open source pages, SAS programming, SAS solutions and technologies, just the things that we went over. And so the next demo I want to do is I'm going to show you an end-to-end use case. So the use case is we're going to do a job execution. So to do that, we're going to have to create a folder to create the job, to execute the job, and then to work with the results. So you can see there, I clicked on the computing jobs, and so this is the API. This is the category, and then we have the APIs here. And you can see here there are filters for your categories. So here's our compute, and we are going to create a job definition. Oops, that's a context definition. Well, I'll find it later. So what we would do here is, you can see here we have the request samples, response samples. All you have to do is click on the copy button, And now we could go over to an application, maybe Postman. And it's as easy as importing that. I just paste in my code. And you can see here that it creates the REST call for me. You would obviously have to change the URL, but it brings in the body, and you would make the changes there as appropriate. As I said, I have an end-to-end use case. So the first thing we need to do is get the folder ID. And you can see here that I've got variables, and then I'm going to search for my folder on SAS Viya. And you can see down here in the scripts, this is post call. I'm going to actually take the ID that comes back and put it into a variable called public ID, or public folder ID. And then I'm going to use that in a subsequent call. And I do that with pretty much every call that I make here. So now I'm going to send this. And that goes through. So that gives me the folder ID. And now I'm going to create a folder under that so I can create the job definition. And now I'm going to create the job definition. And I'm going to submit that job for execution. And all this job is doing a proc print. So it's SAS code that's been written, but you can imagine, you just put your SAS code in there and it's the same process. And now I need to go, I need to check the state. Because it's an asynchronous process, I need to make sure it completes. It's completed now. And I need to go out and find the file. And then I go get the results. And you can see here it comes back as an HTML document. So now what I can do is I can take that text, and I've already done this, so oops. And now I can, and here's my HTML, and you can see that I've just done a proc print, and it comes back this way. Okay, just a couple more little things that we will go through. Future features. What are we going to be doing in the future? Well, we've been working on a try it. So as I said, this is where you go in and grab a key, and then you can try out the API with your data. We're going to do an AI code snippet generator. So if you can say, I want you to make me an API call that does this, this, and this, and it will come back with that code for you. We want a chat assistant as well. So we're going to improve on what we're doing now. We want to have a getting started personalizer. So if you're a data scientist, we want to push you in the right direction. Or if you're a developer, application developer, here are some things that may be good. Additional REST API examples, AI assistant content summaries, add other related technologies and solutions. So add on to those. Integrate with the SAS Hackathon, and add stuff for generative AI, just AI in general. How do we best incorporate this new technology into our developer portal? So that's all I have. I don't know if there are any questions. I think we just have 1 minute left. So hopefully this was a good introduction. Just keep looking for more enhancements, and make sure you visit our site.
Thank you very much, Joe. Please give Joe a round of applause.
Thank you.
We do have a couple minutes for questions, so if you have a question, if you just raise your hand, I'll bring the microphone over to you so everybody can hear it.
So thank you, Joe, for this
Yes.
presentation. I come from the R&D background. Okay.
Okay.
And one of the questions I have always been asked is that we have this Viya for Learner. So a lot of universities use SAS for learning, right? Do we have? Will they be able to kind of use this, on the Viya for Learner?
They can definitely, with the Viya for Learners, there's a Python or a Jupyter Hub that's associated with it. So you could certainly make API calls from that Jupyter Hub, because it's connected directly to VIA for Learners.
Oh, cool. So
Yes.
that's possible.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I'm not sure. I don't think you can. I will have to check and see if you can do it from like Postman or other applications.
I saw you changing the URL there. So
Yeah.
will that be, I mean, that's the question actually. So
Changing the URL.
to point to the right instance probably? The
Yes,
post, yeah. So,
yeah.
so essentially that should be possible, right? I
Yes.
don't know. I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah,
So you
thanks.
should be able to do it.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
Good question. Any other questions? We've got a couple minutes. I don't see you
We've got-
sprinting out of your seats.
Hey, thanks, Joe, for the session.
Yes.
Are we expecting, like, more APIs to be exposed, in next few quarters?
Absolutely. As we bring on new technology, well, it's twofold. As we bring on new technologies, we want to try to make as many APIs as we can public because, we're writing them with standards now. I mean, there are certain APIs that are always going to be in the background and be private that we don't expose. But any new APIs, we try to get them out into the public. We're also trying to, at this point, there are several APIs that many customers have been asking for us to expose. So we're working on improving those. There's some security issues on some of them, so we don't want to expose them with security issues because that puts the customer at risk. So we're working on trying to improve those, working with the product teams to try to improve those so that we can expose them.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, I was wondering how you foresee developer portal and SaaS communities in general changing and evolving over time as people are able to do more like AI-assisted code writing and like vibe coding, where the role or the skill set of a developer is changing as well.
Yeah, we're embracing AI. That's why we've already laid the groundwork for the Copilot. So we'll continue improving on that. We're also working with our agentic AI team, our Gen AI team, and just the AI team in general for what resources do we want to expose there? Do we want to just point them to existing resources, or do we want to develop things within there? And the Copilot is one of them. I know that I also work on communities. My manager is writing something very similar to that, so that we'll bring that in as well to the communities, so that it'll improve searches. And I'm not sure his forecast for all of the things that he wants to do with it, but I know that that's one of them.